You do have a global role, and last week in Amsterdam you were sharing the big picture when it came to maritime air pollution. What's the big picture when it comes to maritime hybrid electric and hydrogen fuel cells?
I think the biggest picture is that for those that are sailing relatively short distances, then fully electrical makes sense, meaning you can use only batteries. Shore power is here to stay, and what we have seen over the last few days also, and we'll see later today, is that offshore charging is also coming. If you are sailing with a bit longer distances, then you need to look into hybrid and maybe dual fuel systems. And then we also see that there are certain solutions that are emerging, like ammonia, as maybe the solution to package and bring with you not hydrogen for long haul distances.
Yes, I think there was a Belgian bulk carrier operator who said on day one that if he were purely reliant on fuel cells, he'd get about 3 nautical miles.
Yeah. And to rely purely on fuel cells today is a bit risky because it hasn't really been many projects out there, so that is still technology under qualification. I mean, to have a fuel cell working on land where it's stable and static and not moving is one thing. To make it work under sea conditions, which can be quite severe, that's another thing. So I mean, it remains to see what kind of a tuning these systems need to have, and the combination, I think, with fuel cell and battery is what will actually kick off in the long run.
And to get things going on the seaside, you need a dependable, solid rule set. This was a recurrent theme.
It's a recurrent theme, and I mean, to make rules prior to developing technology is a challenge. But to do it in conjunction with and in parallel to developing new technology, that makes sense. And that means that we will start with the functional requirements and making sure that it's safe. And then we will develop, you can say, the more prescriptive requirements as we go. And when you have prescriptive requirement, that is when you can actually take down the cost of doing this and you can start scaling. It's very difficult to scale something if you're not prescriptive and precise about what you want to order and what you want to build. So that's definitely a role and a demand for having more prescriptive requirements in this industry.
We meet each other at a number of events, including our offshore support vessel ones. It was very telling that on the programme that there were a number of offshore support vessels or offshore wind vessels that are in the vanguard. It's especially interesting given the different economics in those markets. How do you make sense of that reality?
I see exactly the same as you see, Edwin. I think the offshore vessels, they are not necessarily trading with cargo from A to B. They have a role to be a service tool. So they are like service engineers. They are like service going in and out. They never know exactly what they're going to do and for how long and under which weather conditions, meaning that they're exposed to challenges and changes in environment. They're exposed to a lot of load variation and transient conditions. And that are perfect conditions actually for electrifying and for hybridization. So I think that the fact that offshore vessels have been leading on hybridization makes sense. The fact that the offshore wind industry are also producing clean electricity. Why not produce clean hydrogen and clean ammonia in the same go? And why not use fully electrical vessels and charge them in the offshore fields? So to me it makes a lot of sense to start where you have these type of transient load, where you can stay in one area, you know where you are, and then you can also plan for the charging opportunities. It's much more difficult if you are going long distances like the big bulk liners, container liners and so on.
We even had the world's navies here as well, looking at the technology.
Yeah. So I mean, they are learning. The fully electrical first, I think, came to Norway with ferries, but the offshore industry has been paving the road for the rest to learn how to do this hybrid. The offshore wind industry is really, I think, to be the first one to have real offshore vessels going zero emission. And I don't think we are talking many years ahead of us. I think we are talking maybe 2023. 22, maybe too early, but 23, 24, I think we will see the first.
And finally, Arnstein, how have you found the last 3 days?
Very interesting, very engaging and motivating to get out from the home offices and to see real people, to meet and network, and to have these dialogues for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, late evenings, to engage with the industry and to actually share good ideas. So very giving a lot of inspiration and motivation by being among peers, discussing challenges and seeing that everyone are realizing that yes, we are doing something now. We are living through the transition and we are actually creating it and the tools and the solutions together.
I think thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.